প্রিয় দর্শক আসসালামু আলাইকুম আমন্ত্রণ জানাচ্ছি আমাদের নিয়মিত আয়োজন ইমিগ্রেশন বিষয়ক অনুষ্ঠান ইউএস ইমিগ্রেশন উইথ ব্রেটস কোভেন LLP দর্শক নিয়মিতভাবে আমাদের সাথে উপস্থিত থাকেন নিউ ইয়র্কের খুবই ওয়েল নোন একটা ল ফার্ম ব্রেটস কোভেন LLP থেকে অ্যাটর্নি ক্যারি এবং অ্যাটর্নি আইলিন দর্শক দুঃখজনকভাবে আজকে আমাদের সাথে আইলিন উপস্থিত নেই কিন্তু আমাদের সাথে নিয়মিতভাবে উপস্থিত আছেন অ্যাটর্নি ক্যারি দর্শক আপনারা জানেন যে আমাদের এই অনুষ্ঠানটি সাজানো হয়ে থাকে ইমিগ্রেশন বিষয়ক আপনাদের নানা সমস্যা এবং তার সমাধান নিয়ে আপনারা আমাদেরকে সরাসরি প্রশ্ন করতে পারেন এবং প্রশ্ন করতে আমাদেরকে ফোন করতে পারেন দর্শক চলুন তাহলে আমরা কথা বলি আমাদের আজকের অতিথির সাথে Hello, Carrie. How are you?
Good. Good evening, Shamima. How are you?
Good evening. I'm fine. Thank you, Carrie. And thank you for being here with us. And I know today we are missing Eileen.
Yes.
But hopefully we are good with you. And
I hope so.
Absolutely. And I'm sure about that. Carrie, we always talk about immigration problem and answer questions and, our audience calls. So before you take calls, I just wanted to ask some question about people's right for immigration. And also sometimes people are arrested for some reason, for immigration purpose, or they're arrested in the airport. Sometimes they're arrested and then they don't know who to call, where to go, and who to ask for help. So what is the suggestion you gave to those people who have faces those problems or generally to know if they have any problems like that?
Well, there's a number of considerations. The first thing is, as a general rule, in the United States, police and law enforcement are your friend, as a general rule, right? If you're in trouble, you're going to need to call a policeman. If you're a victim of a crime, you're going to need to call a policeman. But unlike many other countries in the world, we have certain rights here. Nobody is under an obligation at any time to speak to a law enforcement officer.
Okay.
So if for example, ICE comes knocking on your door at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
You have no obligation to open that door. You have no obligation to give your name. You have no obligation to answer any questions. Unless they have a judicially enforced warrant, which is relatively rare, especially in the Bangladesh community.
Absolutely.
But what you cannot do is you cannot lie to law enforcement. So you're better off to say nothing. And it's some people have a real hard time with that. They think, gee, I should answer a question. They're knocking on the door. A person knows that her husband has a deportation order, and is Ahmed Chowdhury there? And they say no when he's there. Just better off not saying anything. You don't have to answer the question. Again, as a general rule, the police are people you go to when you're in trouble. And generally that works out. But you have no obligation to ever answer questions or speak to law enforcement in the United States. You always have that right to remain silent. And if you have issues, you're deportable. Certainly remaining silent is often, not always, but often in your best interest. Now, if you're approached at your home, if you're approached on the street, those are the rules. If, however, you're coming into the U.S., even if you're a lawful permanent resident, you have a green card, you still have the obligation to prove that you're admissible to the U.S.
Okay.
That is, if you were out of the U.S. for too long, you have to prove that you didn't abandon your status. If you are inadmissible for some reason, like you committed a fraud or you committed a crime, you still have the obligation to prove you're inadmissible. So the rules about speaking to law enforcement are a little bit different when you're at a border or the airport.
Okay.
For people who are not citizens. But those are the general rules. So people often get very afraid. I hear these stories all the time where, immigration's knocking on the door, and they always do it early in the morning, 6, 7 a.m.
Absolutely.
People are still sleeping, or maybe not Bangladeshi people, they're up early to go to work, but they're knocking on the door, and they get very, very nervous, and they start telling things that are not accurate. You're better off not saying anything.
Okay, so that's the first thing that you should just keep silent if you don't know. Sometimes people get scared and they just talk. They just think that we have to answer, and if it's a police or it's immigration people, we have to. So today they might know that we don't need to say anything. We can just keep silent, and that later on they can call a lawyer for.
That's correct. And by the way, that's true whether you're a citizen, a resident, someone who overstayed their visa, someone who came to the U.S. in somebody else's name, somebody who crossed the border without being inspected.
Right.
If you're physically in the U.S., you're protected by the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Constitution says you have no obligation to answer questions from law enforcement. That's kind of the bottom line.
Absolutely. And immigration always give you the chance to call your lawyer, even if you're arrested, right?
Well, once you get arrested in the United States, you generally have an opportunity to consult counsel. But what happens in these engagements, sometimes immigration, ICE, or other law enforcement have some information, but not a lot.
Okay.
And what they want to do, and they're very skillful, they want to engage you in a conversation because they're very skillful at figuring out things that they don't know from the conversation they're having with you.
Okay, so they want to trick you on that.
You can call it tricking. Their law enforcement techniques and tactics, and they're very good at that. So, again, if you have something to worry about, you're often just better off responding like this. You have no obligation to answer any questions in the United States.
Okay.
So that really is a golden rule. Absolutely. And I strongly encourage people to follow that, depending upon the circumstance, but never to affirmatively lie to law enforcement, because that creates other problems, and it also actually under the Patriot Act could be considered a crime in certain circumstances.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know that immigration is very strict about lying, and also I think you should not when you go to immigration. But Carrie, you just confirmed that we have the right to remain silent when you are arrested, and also that you can call your lawyer, or you ask them to that I want a lawyer.
That's correct.
Okay, so the people who are suffering from that, and also the people who are arrested in the airport, they can also ask to call their attorneys.
A little bit more tricky at the airport. So, and it's a little hard for people to understand. We have two concepts in immigration. We have the concept of deportability, which refers to people who are physically already in the U.S., and those folks are clearly 100% protected by the Constitution. But then we have the concept of inadmissibility. That's people who are coming into the U.S. at an airport or at the Canadian border or the Mexican border. And two rules apply to people coming into the U.S. who are not citizens. The first is they have to prove that they're admissible to the U.S. And so that means you do have to speak, because you have some obligations to show that you didn't abandon your status, that you haven't been convicted of certain crimes. So there are always questions. Well, not always, but there's often questions at the airport. Sir, how long have you been out of the U.S.? What was the purpose of your trip? Are you carrying any contraband with you today? Anything like that.
So it's a very important thing that in the airport is different than the ICE.
Yes, and one other big important point at the airport: non-citizens are not entitled to a lawyer at the airport.
Really?
That's correct. Okay. Because technically, or I guess legally, it's a fiction, but legally, they're standing outside of the U.S. trying to gain admission. They may be physically on U.S. soil, but they haven't been admitted yet.
Okay. So
the rules are very different for those folks. And it's something that's always bothered me as a lawyer who believes people should be represented. So very often at the airport, if and it's Customs and Border Protection, that's the part of the Department of Homeland Security that does these inspections. Very often, if they suspect something, they will take the person from the primary inspection, refer them to what they call secondary, where they might be 4 or 5 hours, while somebody else is checking out stuff in the computer, and then take a Q&A, a question and answer from them. How long were you out? What's your family? You know, so on and so forth.
It's a very good information. I would like to tell the audience a little bit about this, and I think if they have any question about that, because sometimes some people actually face these problems and they don't know what to do, and also if they cannot call their attorneys, then they should be aware of that they should check before they go out of this country or come back.
That's
so
right.
This is really an important issue. And Carrie, in this note, I would ask some more question after we take some callers.
Okay.
And I would like to tell the audience, my audience, to inform about this this conversation.
Well, I love when you speak Bangla, so no problem.
Thank you, Carrie. দর্শক, আজকে আমরা যে বিষয়টি নিয়ে কথা বলছিলাম সেটা হচ্ছে যে পিপলস রাইট। আমরা যখন ইমিগ্রেশনের কোনো প্রবলেম ফেস করি, লাইক আইস আমাদের যেটা ডিপোর্টেশনের যদি কোনো কেস থেকে থাকে, যখন আমরা অ্যারেস্ট বা আইস আমাদের দরজায় এসে নক করছে এবং আপনাদেরকে কোয়েশ্চেন জিজ্ঞাসা করছে, তাছাড়াও আমরা যে জিনিসটা নিয়ে কথা বলছিলাম সেটা হচ্ছে যে এয়ারপোর্টে অনেক সময় আমরা আমাদের স্ট্যাটাস চেক না করে হয়তো অ্যাডমিশন নেওয়ার চেষ্টা করি এবং অনেকে অ্যারেস্ট হয়, এবং তারপরে তারা কি করতে পারে বা তাদের কি ধরনের করণীয় আছে সেটা নিয়ে আমরা কথা বলছিলাম। সো দর্শক, কেরি আমাদেরকে খুব ভালো কিছু ইনফরমেশন দিলেন। সেটা হচ্ছে যে যখনই কখনো যদি আপনারা এখান থেকে অ্যারেস্ট হন বা আপনাদের দরজায় ইমিগ্রেশন এনফোর্সমেন্ট এসে নক করে, সো আপনাদের সবারই রাইট আছে যে আপনারা চুপ থাকতে পারেন এবং আপনারা কোনো কোয়েশ্চেনের অ্যান্সার না দিলে আপনাদের কোনো সমস্যা নেই। তবে যেটি খুবই ইম্পর্টেন্ট যে আপনারা কখনো ইমিগ্রেশনে মিথ্যা কথা বলবেন না বা মিথ্যা ইনফরমেশন, ভুল ইনফরমেশন তাদেরকে দিবেন না, এটি আপনাদের জন্যই ক্ষতিকারক। অ্যান্ড দর্শক, যখন আপনাদের কারোর যদি কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন থেকে থাকে যে ইমিগ্রেশনে এই ধরনের কোনো প্রবলেম যদি আপনারা ফেস করে থাকেন, অ্যারেস্ট হয়েছেন বা এয়ারপোর্টে আপনাদের কোনো প্রবলেম ফেস করতে হচ্ছে, সো আপনারা আমাদেরকে প্রশ্ন করতে পারেন। আর দর্শক, আপনারা প্রশ্ন করতে ফোন করুন 718-389-9600 এই নাম্বারে। সো দর্শক, চলুন আজকে আমরা একটি আমাদের সাথে কলার আছে, ওয়েট করছেন, আমরা তার প্রশ্নটি শুনি। নাজনীন খানম, নিউ ইয়র্ক, সরি তানজিদা খানম, নিউ ইয়র্ক। হ্যালো হ্যালো তানজিদা। হ্যালো
হ্যালো, আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
ওয়ালাইকুম আসসালাম। জি, আপনার প্রশ্ন করুন।
আসলে আমি আজকে ডিপোর্টেশন নামে একটা অন্য ব্যাপারে কথা বলতে যাচ্ছিলাম।
জি বলুন, আপনার প্রশ্ন বলুন।
প্রশ্নটা হচ্ছে, আমার হাজবেন্ড 6 বছর আগে আমার ননদের জন্য অ্যাপ্লাই করেছিল, হ্যাঁ, তো ওইটা ডিনাই করে ওরা গত 2 সপ্তাহ আগে পাঠিয়েছিল। তো পাঠানোর পরে ওরা চাইছে আর কি যে লাইক আমাদের দেশে তো লাইক আমার শাশুড়ির নাম মোসাম্মদ সুরাইয়া বেগম, হ্যাঁ, তো কিছু কিছু পেপারে সুরাইয়া বেগম আছে, কিছু কিছু পেপারে সুরাইয়া বেগম নাই, মোসাম্মদ সুরাইয়া বেগম আছে। সম্ভবত এই কারণেই ওরা এটারে ডিনাই করে পাঠিয়েছে। এখন আমরা এই কাগজপত্র আবার নতুন করে সাবমিট করেছি, আপিল করতে যাচ্ছি, তো সেক্ষেত্রে আসলে রেজাল্টটা কেমন হবে?
ওকে তানজিদা, আপনি আপিল করতে যাচ্ছেন এবং আপনাকে যে ডিনায়াল লেটারটা দিয়েছে তারা ওখানে ডিটেলস ডিনায়ালের যে কেন ডিনাই করেছে সেটার ইনফরমেশন হয়তো আপনার ডিনায়াল লেটারে আছে।
ইনফরমেশন আসলে আমি যেটা দেখতেছি ওরা এটাই বোঝাচ্ছে যে লাইক কিছু কিছু সার্টিফিকেটে লাইক কিছু কিছু বার্থ সার্টিফিকেট, ম্যারেজ সার্টিফিকেটে আমার শাশুড়ির নাম পুরোপুরি মোসাম্মদ সুরাইয়া বেগম আছে, কোথাও কোথাও সুরাইয়া বেগম আছে। আপনি ভালো করে জানেন বাংলাদেশে আসলে ফার্স্ট নেমটা তো তেমন ইউজ করা হয় না,
জি অবশ্যই
ওরা সুরাইয়া বেগম ইউজ করেছে, কোথাও কোথাও করেনি। তো এটাই আসলে ওরা লিখছে যে কোথাও
আপনার নামটা ডিফারেন্সের জন্য তারা ডিনাই করেছে কেসটা। তানজিদা, আমি আপনার কোয়েশ্চেনটি ডেফিনেটলি রাখছি, আপনি আমাদের সাথেই থাকুন। ধন্যবাদ আপনার প্রশ্নটির জন্য। আপনার কি আর কোনো প্রশ্ন আছে? আচ্ছা, ধন্যবাদ তানজিদা। Carrie, Tanzida was asking her husband applied for his brothers and sisters 6 years back, and the case has been denied because the issue they have found is the difference, name difference for his mother. Like his mother name is Mosammad Suraya Khanum. So the problem they face that one birth certificate or another place that there is two different, like Mosammad is actually an abbreviation, not a full name. So they can use Mosammad or they cannot, but the problem over here they face, like they have a some places they have Suraya Khanum, some places they have Musammad Suraya Khanum. So the case has been denied and they wanted to appeal the case. So what they should do and how they should proceed.
Right. So when you petition for any family member, but particular brother or sister, this is called the fourth preference.
Right.
You file the visa petition. That is signed by the petitioner, the citizen sibling, who has to be a citizen of the United States. And if it gets denied, before it gets to the point where you're consular processing, which this must have been denied if it was only in process for 6 years before it gets to that point, there is an appeal process. You can appeal that denial to something called the Board of Immigration Appeals.
Right.
And the Board of Immigration Appeals sits in Falls Church, Virginia, which is just outside of Washington, D.C. There are a little bit more than a half a dozen members. They all have about 20 or 30 lawyers who work for them, and they do all the appeals from the immigration courts, the I-130s and the I-140s throughout the U.S. And you can take that issue up with the Board of Immigration Appeals, and it's not uncommon for countries to have variations on the name. I mean, how many times in my career did I deal with an immigration inspector who thought the abbreviation for Mohammed was doctor, you know?
Right,
so
they put MD.
MD, so, right. And if you're not used to that and you're not familiar with that abbreviation, you know, it's a common mistake. So they have a right to appeal that. And they should do that, and that's certainly an appeal that we like to do in our office. That's an
basically,
case.
you know, in our country, like MRS, we call Mrs. or Miss. So the abbreviation that we use for MRS, it's Musammad actually in our country. So that's what it's happened here. So how they should fix it? Like they should write a letter, or they should.
Well, they only have 30 days from the notice of appeal to file from the denial to file a notice of appeal with the Board of Immigration Appeals, and you know, half of law is procedure. So the procedure actually is the notice of appeal goes back to immigration, and then the immigration forwards the appeal to the Board of Immigration Appeals. The procedure is a little awkward, but the denial says that. The denial tells you exactly how to do it. And then they need to add all their evidence that this is the same person. And that might take going to the local person in charge of the records to do an affidavit that, yes, you know, MRS also means Masama, and so on and so forth. So, and the appeal process takes a long time, but if they're successful, even if it takes a year and a half or 2 years, the date of the original filing 6 years ago still becomes the priority date, and that still keeps them in the ballpark for what is now, I think they're doing like 2002, so they won't lose the time. But if they miss that date, then they have to file from the beginning all over again, get another denial, and deal with an appeal after that.
Can they do a motion to reopen for this fourth preference?
Well, the rules on motions to reopen require you to show that, first of all, you have to file in a certain amount of time, and secondly, you have to show that you're submitting evidence that wasn't previously available. So you're always better off doing a direct appeal than doing a motion if you can.
Okay. So right now they have only things that they need to do, proof, evidence with appeal. So they have to, and they need to have
case like this. I would like to see the denial, and I'd like to see what proof they have. Submit our notice of appeal, submit our evidence or an argument, and then go from there.
Oh, definitely, Carrie. It's a good suggestion because I think they better check with a person who can actually see and confirm it before they submit it. Thank you, Carrie, for your answer, and it's really helpful. Tanzida, আপনি যে প্রশ্নটি করেছিলেন আপনার হাজবেন্ডের ভাই বোনের জন্য 6 বছর আগে অ্যাপ্লিকেশনটি ফাইল করা হয়েছিল, which has been denied, যেটা এখন ডিনাই হয়েছে, এবং বেসিসটা ছিল যে আপনার তার মায়ের নামের ডিফারেন্স। সো তানজিদা যেটা ক্যারি সাজেশন করলেন যে আপনারা অবশ্যই আপিল করবেন এই কেসটিতে, বিকজ এটা ফোর্থ প্রেফারেন্স, এটা অনেক লঙ্গার প্রসেসের কেস। সো এখানে আপিল অবশ্যই আপনাদেরকে করতে হবে, কিন্তু আপিল করার আগে আপনাদের যেটা করতে হবে যে প্রুফ অফ এভিডেন্স যেগুলো আছে, আপনাদের এভিডেন্স যেটা আছে যে নামটা আসলে মোসাম্মদ যেটা আমাদের দেশে যেভাবে ইউজ করা হয়, সেই এভিডেন্সগুলো আপনাদেরকে প্রপারলি সাবমিট করতে হবে। সো আপনারা যদি চান আপনি আপনার একজন ভালো কোনো অ্যাটর্নির সাথে যোগাযোগ করতে পারেন, অথবা আপনি ক্যারি ইজ অ্যাভেলেবল, আপনি তার সাথে কনসাল্ট করতে পারেন, তাকে আপনারা শো করে জিনিসটাকে কনফার্ম করে দেন, আপনারা সেন্ড করতে পারেন আপনাদের আপিলটা, এবং এটার জন্য অনলি 30 days থাকে। সো হোপফুলি আপনাকে হেল্প করতে পেরেছি। ধন্যবাদ আপনাকে ফোন করার জন্য। দর্শক, আপনারা যারা ব্রেটস কোভেন LLP তে যোগাযোগ করতে চান আপনাদের যে কোনো ইমিগ্রেশনের সমস্যা নিয়ে, আর যে কোনো আপনাদের যত বড় ধরনের প্রবলেম হোক না কেন ইমিগ্রেশনের, আপনারা সরাসরি যোগাযোগ করতে পারেন তাদের সাথে। আপনাদের যদি ইনফরমেশনের প্রয়োজন হয় আমাদের স্ক্রিন থেকে আপনারা সংগ্রহ করুন তাদের ফোন নাম্বার এবং তাদের অ্যাড্রেস আছে। আপনারা স্কাইপ এর মাধ্যমেও বিভিন্ন স্টেট থেকে তাদের সাথে কনসাল্ট করতে পারেন। আর ফার্স্ট টাইম কনসালটেশন এটা কমপ্লিমেন্টারি আমাদের সিনে বাংলার জন্য, যারা আপনারা রেফারেন্স দিবেন তাদের জন্য ফার্স্ট টাইম কনসালটেশনটা ফ্রি আছে। সো দর্শক, আপনারা অবশ্যই এই সুবর্ণ সুযোগটি হাতছাড়া করবেন না। ধন্যবাদ দর্শক। সো উই হ্যাভ অ্যানাদার কলার, খালিদ ফ্রম নিউ ইয়র্ক। হ্যালো খালিদ।
হ্যালো, আসসালামু আলাইকুম আপা।
ওয়ালাইকুম আসসালাম। জি বলুন, আপনার প্রশ্ন করুন।
আমার দুইটা প্রশ্ন। EB2 ভিসা আমার বোন আমার জন্য অ্যাপ্লাই করেছিল। হ্যালো,
EB2 ভিসা।
হ্যাঁ,
ওকে।
আমার বোন আমার জন্য
হ্যাঁ
অ্যাপ্লাই করেছিল 5-6 বছর আগে, ঠিক আছে?
ওকে।
এন্ড আমার ভাইয়ের নামে বিজনেস আছে। এখন কি আমি আমার বিজনেস আমার বোনের নামেই থাকতে হবে, নাকি ভাইয়ের ভাই অ্যাপ্লাই করার পরে আমি EB2 ভিসার জন্য এলিজিবল হব? সেকেন্ড থিং হলো, আমি এখানে অনেকদিন যাবত আমি পেরোলে 1995-এ আমি দেশে গেছিলাম। আমার পাসপোর্টে স্টিল আছে। আবার কি এখান থেকে ভিসা ওয়ার্ক অপারেশন বা ভিসা দিতে পারবো?
পেরোলে আপনি এখানে আছেন 1995-এর পেরোল?
না, পেরোলে আমি দেশে গেছিলাম বাংলাদেশে।
আচ্ছা, পেরোল
কেস ছিল 1995-এ। সবই যখন আমার আসছি, এখানে আমার পাসপোর্টে লিগ্যাল এন্ট্রি ভিসা আছে।
আচ্ছা, ভিসা আছে, কিন্তু আপনার স্ট্যাটাসটা এখনকার স্ট্যাটাসটা বলেন।
আমার এখনকার কোনো স্ট্যাটাস নেই। আমি এখানে 30 বছর যাবত লিগ্যালি ছিলাম, ওয়ার্ক অপারেশন ছিল লুলাক্কি। এখন আমার কোনো স্ট্যাটাস নেই।
So you have no status right now, and
এখন আমি আমার বোন অ্যাপ্লাই করতে, বাট বিজনেস হলো আমার ভাইয়ের নামে। EB2 ভিসাতে কি আমি এলিজিবল হব?
ওকে, অলরাইট, থ্যাংক ইউ খালেদ, আপনি আমাদের সাথেই থাকুন। Carrie, his question is like his brother have a business here, but sister apply 5-6 year back for EB2 visa for him, but he stayed here. He's been here for 20 years now. Right now he's out of status, but he had work authorization through CSS LULAC. So right now he's out of status, and so his question is like, the business the EB2 visa has been applied for him. It's under his brother's name, but the sister is the petitioner.
Okay,
it's kind of complicated.
Right. So EB2, of which Eileen is the expert,
Absolutely.
by the way. Thank Eileen's not here tonight. But EB2 obviously is for people who have advanced degrees and a fair amount of education. And but if you are out of status, you cannot convert to an EB2. So
okay.
Right. So once you're out of status, your options are extremely limited for immigration. So if I'm understanding this correctly, the EB2 was applied for many, many years ago and denied for whatever reason. So if that was, 10, 15, 20 years ago, whatever it is, that's out. You can't revive that. You're out of status and you can't go back to that. And he did a LULAC case, which sadly was probably fraudulent, because LULAC required that you had been in the U.S. in 1982. Doesn't sound like he was here at that amount of time.
Okay.
But having said that, once you're out of status, you can only convert in a couple of ways. One is through an immediate relative petition. That is, if you entered the U.S. lawfully, but you're out of status, you can get a green card through a petition from a U.S. citizen spouse or a child over 21 who's a U.S. citizen.
Okay.
You can also get a green card as a defense to deportation in something called cancellation of removal, which requires that you be here for 10 years, that you establish you're a person of good moral character, and have either a parent, a spouse, or a child.
So not from
who
brothers
is
and
either
sisters.
a citizen or a resident, correct?
Okay.
Not from a brother or sister. The third way that you can get status in the United States is through either asylum or the U visa that we've talked about many times.
Right.
And asylum really requires that you file for it within a year of coming to the U.S. So he's got a number of issues, none of which look particularly great right now. On the good side, no criminal history. He is in the lowest priority for deportation. So I should talk about this for 1 minute.
Sure.
Because we were talking about this before.
Right.
There are 3 priorities for deportation. Priority 1, priority 2, and priority 3.
Right.
Priority 1 includes people who are almost never from Bangladesh. Gang members, violent felons, drug traffickers, people convicted of aggravated felonies. That's category 1, priority 1. Priority 2, people who came here after November 20th of last year when the president gave his speech. People who have a final order of removal on or after January 1st of last year. And people with 3 misdemeanors or something called a significant misdemeanor or a DWI or a domestic violence. So, if you are not in priority 1 or 2, that means you're in priority 3.
Okay.
Priority 3, those folks are not being deported. No matter what they do, if they walk into 26 Federal Plaza and say, I want to be deported, the likelihood is they'll be walked outside and told to go home. It's still, I should say they're not being deported. It's on a case-by-case basis. But people in priority 3 are just, they're not a priority for immigration.
Okay.
So the good news is this gentleman has no risk of removal right now. The bad news is that he can only get some status through a change in the law or an immediate relative petition, U visa, or something like that.
Okay, so he's not eligible for EB2 visa.
No, once you're out of status, you cannot convert to an EB2. Okay. That's correct.
So that's the sad news for him. And
EB2, by the way, these are very, this law is very sad because EB2s are people with higher education in the sciences and arts and other areas. Certainly, we're lacking that in the U.S., and those are people that we should be encouraging to get status here instead of making it difficult.
Yeah, because that could be an asset for the United States. So it's very sad for him. But there is another option, I guess, if it's brothers and sisters are here, if they are citizen, then they can apply for him and he can get a status or adjustment of status.
Well, a brother and sister petition right now, that's called the 4th preference.
Right.
They're adjudicating cases from 2002.
Do you think that can give him a little bit of chance to stay here, or later he can convert?
The answer is complicated. If someone filed for him 13 or 14 years ago and it's almost current, and he comes under a law called 245I because there was a petition pending for him before April 30th, 2001, then he can adjust here. If not, even though someone filed for him like in 2002, if and when that becomes current, he's got a problem because he cannot adjust here, and when he leaves, he incurs something called unlawful presence, which you cannot waive unless you have a parent or a spouse.
Okay.
So the law is not logical. It's really complicated, and there's never one simple answer for a circumstance that the gentleman is in.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Carrie. You have gave me a lot of good option for him. Unfortunately, he does not consider for EB2 visa anymore, but absolutely he can consult with you or any good attorneys to have his options open.